Welcome to another week of Soap Secrets. Joining me is Victoria Wilson, our Holby expert. Hi, Victoria.
Hi, Hannah.
Hello, and hi, Claire. Claire will also be talking about all of the other soaps later on. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Hannah.
Hello there. Now, have you both been to the pub yet? That's the biggest question on the tip of my tongue.
I haven't been to the pub. I have been to the shops, though.
Okay. And Claire?
I haven't been to the pub, but I've booked a facial.
Oh, exciting. I love it. I love all our beautifying. That's the first thing that had to be in the diaries. Okay, well, so from beautifying to Holby, which is not very beautiful, is it really, this week, Victoria? Because it's really, really ratcheting up in the Reyhan story, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we know, obviously, Henrik Hanssen, Holby's stalwart, took the brave step just recently of admitting that Sahira Shah's father, Reyhan, sexually abused him as a child. It's a really big thing for him. You can tell he's still affected all these years on. And, you know, he managed to put his own feelings aside, though, to make sure Reyhan got the liver transplant he needed. But obviously he's sort of a bit stunned this week when Reyhan returns to Holby with complications from the surgery. Now, he's ever the professional and, you know, he wants to be the one to find out what the problem is and treat him. But it's clearly a shock seeing him back at the hospital. And it's almost like every time you see your abuser, all those sort of old feelings come rushing back. Anyway, so Hanssen's kind of he's determined. You know, he's made this announcement. He's told the police, made a formal statement to police, and he is determined that Reyhan will pay for his crimes. But there's a really intense scene in this week's episode between Reyhan and Hanssen, where basically a cunning Reyhan tells Hanssen exactly how he sees events sort of playing out in court. He kind of says, well, you know, who's going to believe you after all these years, and really goads him and you know that they're obviously going to believe me, and I don't know why you're even bothering taking it to court and all of that. So again, that's what I said. It just kind of shows you how he's able to sort of needle Hanssen all these years on.
Horrible.
Yeah, he is. He shows himself in that scene to be a really nasty piece of work. I mean, if you were in any doubt beforehand, that you won't be after watching this episode. Reyhan he manipulates him into calling Sahira to the hospital, and she arrives with Reyhan's grandson, her son Abs, in tow. Obviously, we know that up to now, she's refused to believe Hanssen's allegations about her father, but she's sort of horrified this week when new evidence kind of comes to light, which strongly suggests that Hanssen is telling the truth. I won't say what it is because it is quite spoilery, but definitely watch it. It's definitely quite a major twist. It's been a really challenging storyline so far, but Holby have handled it sort of really sensitively, and again, as I said, it really sort of is highlighting why abuse victims struggle to come forward decades on from their ordeal.
It's very, very hard to prove historic abuse, isn't it? Which we've seen so many kind of late in the kind of A-list world, if you like, which we have seen people sort of going down for, if you like, which is, I would think, very helpful to those people suffering in silence to see that they are being listened to, because, as I say, historic abuse claims are notoriously difficult to kind of rule in favour of the victim, because it's you know, so old, isn't it? Hard to prove. It's such a horrible storyline, but one that unfortunately will strike a chord with many people, I guess.
There's a kind of interesting development in this episode to do with what I said was quite spoilery, and that, you know, it really begs the question, kind of, what is abuse? You have a lot of people, maybe they think they might have been in a situation but weren't quite aware of what was going on, and maybe someone speaking up opens their eyes to the reality of the situation. So there's definitely like something like that happening here. It's really interesting.
And so we've got the whole Dom and Sasha storyline as well going on, haven't we? And we've got there's that kind of this plan to perform Dom's stoma reversal under the guise of an emergency. I feel like it's going to go wrong all over it.
Right. Well, so it starts. The sort of whole thing begins with Dom arriving at the hospital. He's making a really big thing of, I'm in so much pain, he's saying, and obviously surgeon and his mum is very concerned, and she kind of sets about finding out what's wrong. Like, she wants to do scans on his abdomen and all of this. But Dom insists, no, it's fine. You know, Sasha, I'm under Sasha's sort of charge, so I'll be happy for him to take a look at me. Well, obviously, us viewers soon discover, as you say, that this is something of a fake emergency, and it's all really just a ruse to get Dom into the hospital so that Sasha can perform this sort of illicit surgery. As we know, though, that there are absolutely no flies on Ange at all, and she soon smells a big dirty rat. If we remember, Dom sort of asked his mum in last week's episode if she'd assist in the operation. She flat out said no, saying it was dangerous and unethical. And here she kind of insists. I mean, she's confronted by the both of them, and she stands firm, and she's like, I'm not doing this. I don't want any part in this risky procedure. However, kind of Dom puts on the sort of puppy dog eyes, and he also kind of makes her see that the surgery is going ahead with or without her help. So I guess then she kind of feels a bit like her hands are tied, and she's like, well, maybe if I don't help and something goes wrong, then I'll never, I'll feel so much guilt.
We see a few of these situations, though, don't we? I mean, not just in Holby, but also in Casualty, where family sort of get involved, and it becomes the lines aren't defined, and of course they should be defined, because if you're not allowed to do it, you're not allowed to do it, and as simple as that, whether you're a mother, son, father, daughter, whatever you are. But we do see these lines blurred an awful lot, and it makes me question whether, I mean, I don't know if there is a policy where, people can't work, family members can't work in the same hospital, but you kind of think, well, maybe that shouldn't be the case, because actually it does put people in difficult situations.
I think broadly speaking, there is a policy in hospitals for relatives to not operate.
It would seem reasonable.
On their family. Yeah, but as we know, this is Holby.
So she decides to sort of put her scrubs on, doesn't she? And go in and actually help with the operation. But, is it going to be a success?
Well, I suppose it's more to do with the fact that it's not... Sasha is a great surgeon, so there's no real doubt that anything should go wrong, really. It's more just the cloak and dagger nature of it, and the fact that it is slightly unethical, and they perhaps shouldn't be doing it on a patient at the stage Dom's treatment is at. That's the problem. But this is, as I say, this is Holby, and the operation in this instance goes relatively well, and it does look like they might just have pulled it off. Of course, though, the big question is, will they manage to avoid getting caught by new boss Fletch?
Yeah, I feel like this story's going to run for a bit, eh?
Yes. Oh yeah, of course.
But that's not all, is there? Because we've got a new face arriving.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So fans should definitely keep an eye out for a very familiar face this week, as former Coronation Street actress Deborah Stevenson pops up in this week's Holby. Wow. She's a new director of funding, Jenny Sinclair.
Oh, okay.
So with Fletch basically wading through mountains of emails as Holby's new CEO. Full disclosure, obviously viewers will have seen now that Max, this is sort of following Max's recent incident. Jenny arrives just in time to help him make sense of how much money the hospital's got and how much it hasn't. And she's, she seems like a tough cookie, and it does look like these two will get on. But I guess it remains to be seen whether Jenny is all she seems.
Oh, of course she's not. This is not only Holby, but also is a great storyline to be had, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And Deborah is great. I mean, she's already proven, as well as being a great actress in whether it's Coronation Street or Bad Girls or any of those things.
Yeah.
She's also an incredible impressionist. I mean, she can pretty much turn her hand to anything. So I think we can expect this new character to have a lot of layers. Let's just say that.
Excellent. Well, we shall leave it hanging there. Thank you very much, Victoria. And welcome, Claire, because we're going to go from one hospital ward to another, because I never thought I'd say it again this year, but seriously, they are pulling out all the stops again, aren't they, with a hugely hard-hitting episode.
They are, Hannah. I found this really quite shocking to watch again. We had last week, we had BB coming in, suffering from effects of her vaginal mesh, and this week we look at having drink spiking, which is a shocking thing, and actually it happens to one of the nurses. So Jade and Faith is back after her mandatory leave, after her big slap over the wrist. They go out on a girls' night out. Now we're all back at pubs are beginning to open again, and they're out in this outdoorsy kind of pub, and there's nothing exciting really going on. There's just two of them. They're not wildly drunk. They're having a good time. It's very frightening a bit for Jade, because Jade, as fans will know, wears 2 hearing aids, and what I think a lot of people who don't wear hearing aids don't realise is that they amplify not just the person you're talking to, but all the noise around you, so all the music and everybody else's conversation. And because
this reminds me a little bit of these Teams or Zoom or whatever it is you're using to have these kind of meetings, and they try and cancel out the noise, but It ends up cancelling out you. It must be because after a day of meetings, so it would be really hard, wouldn't it, for that? Everything's exacerbated, I suppose.
Yes. So Jade decides to take her hearing aids out because the fans know she's an excellent lip reader, and it's just her and Faith. They're not doing anything else. She can sit facing Faith, and she can, as they chat, she can read her lips, so she doesn't need to hear her, and it's much more comfortable for Jade. And she actually takes these hearing aids out in the pub, and so while her back is turned, we see a man pop something into her drink. I mean, it's momentary. That's the scary thing. So he has been watching her. Has he been watching her because he feels she's vulnerable, because she has a hearing impediment? These are all things that she feels, and it's really shocking to watch because the spiking of the drink, it takes a little time to get through her system, and so a bit later Faith goes to the bar to get another couple of drinks, and you see her looking unwell, and she stands up and she's unsteady on her feet. We're in a bar, so people assume she's drunk. That's the scary thing, of course.
Well, that's exactly what happens, because you go from being, not that I don't think I've had this done to me, but you go from being quite sober to suddenly instantly drunk, and everyone just thinks you've drunk too much, and you can't really prove that you haven't.
No. And so she's on her own because Faith is at the bar. Bars are busy and you have to queue sometimes and stuff. And she drops her handbag, and all of a sudden this man swoops in to help her. And so people around her think that it's her boyfriend saying, "Oh, love, you all right?" And he starts leading her out of the bar. So so she's incapacitated, and she's in the clutches of this man. Faith comes back and goes, "Oh, where's Jade?" And then she spots her bag and all its contents on the floor, and she picks it all up and she runs into the ladies, thinking she's in the loo, as you do, banging on the doors. Jade. She's not there, and she rings Jade's phone, which Jade has in her hand, and she's trying to follow this sound, and she runs out of the bar, and luckily, just as this man is taking Jade down an alleyway and has pushed her into this pile of rubbish, and you can see Jade on this pile of rubbish, and this man has the intention of raping her. She can't do anything. You can see the fear in her eyes, and she's immobilised. She is just, she cannot fight back. She can't do anything. And I think I found that really, really horrific to watch.
It's quite timely as well, isn't it, this? Because obviously we talked at the very beginning about the pubs opening and, you know, people just being very excited to be out. And it is, I think, you know, you've said it's that instant, the instant kind of, it's done. It's so quick. It's momentary. It's done. And just to be aware of where your drink is at all times.
Yes. Who has had access to it? If someone gives you a drink, sometimes even friends do it. And, you know, you want to think, you know, do I want an open beer? Can I not open my own beer? You know, all this kind of stuff. And, you know, Jade is lucky because, you know, Faith spots her and screams at this man to get away from her, and he runs off. And she calls an ambulance, and Jade's really distressed. She doesn't want. She feels that she was picked on because of her hearing impediment, and she feels really, really distressed. She doesn't want anybody in the ER to know, you know. And she's been given a substance. She needs to be checked over because she's been given a substance. We don't know what it is, but it obviously incapacitated her. It could have been anything. And you know, these drugs, you don't know what they're going to do to your system. So some people, you know, obviously it incapacitates them, but for other people, it can. You know, it can have a further effect, and perhaps, you know, it can.
Well, you don't know what reaction
you're.
Well, you don't know what reaction you're going to have to any drug. You know, what a drug that one person takes doesn't affect them, and a drug that another person kills them. You know, that is a reality, isn't it?
Yeah.
This isn't the only storyline though this week, is it? Because we see Ethan finally having the conversation with Phoenicia about Huntington's, which has kind of been we've talked about for many, many weeks, haven't we? And when's he going to say something? And you know, I think what's lovely about this is that they decide they'll fight it together and that they'll come together over it. And but secretly and sort of behind closed doors, you know, Phoenicia's not coping, is she?
No, she breaks down because potentially she could lose both. So she could lose Ethan to Huntington's because we know he has Huntington's, but then Bodhi, we don't know about him. She could lose him to Huntington's at a later stage because obviously he can't be tested until he's 18. So it's
18, is it? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's, you know, it's a long time away for her to be living with something like it's like a ticking time bomb, I suppose, for her. She feels with both the men in her life because you know, they're still not quite there yet, but I think they will get there as a couple.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, they're living together now and stuff, and they've bonded over this. You know, I think it was difficult. I think Connie gave Ethan bad advice. He said, "Don't tell her till she needs to know." But I think he's done the right thing now.
Yeah, I think he has. I think he had to come clean on it because, you know, a problem shared is a problem halved. It would have been, you know, worrying him too. So no, absolutely the right thing to do. Gosh, so much going on. We'll have to whiz through the rest. We've got Hollyoaks up next. And Diane's mental health is really taking a turn for the worse, isn't it? She's got this terrible OCD. And she's been worried that the electricity in the house is unsafe. But Tony doesn't seem to really understand quite how bad, you know, the situation's got with her, I don't think. No. I think if someone said to me, all the electricity in the house is unsafe and it's going to hurt the family, I would probably think, are you feeling all right? You know, and she urges him to call an electrician, you know, and he brushes her off. So this, you know, just like Casualty's done this big drink spiking storyline, this is a big storyline for Hollyoaks, and we know, Hannah, that Hollyoaks really like to do these massive impactful storylines, and OCD affects so many people from the just the small things to the massively not being able to go out and really needing medical intervention. Huge. Yeah.
You know, whether you just wash your hands that one time extra, or you're in the throes of it like Diane.
Or you check your door, you know, 3 times before you leave, whatever it might be. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, yeah. So you know, she's been through a lot. We all know that. You know, we had Edward. She thought her husband was dead. He'd been kidnapped. You know, she has been through a lot. And
I mean, to be fair, the poor woman has been through a serious amount. I mean, if all she comes out with OCD, I mean, poor woman. I mean, Not many people could deal with this.
No, and now she's pregnant, and so she's worried that the electricity in the house is unsafe. Tony brushes her off, and now she's putting her health and the baby's health at risk, because in complete distress she cancels her baby scan, and we all know how important it is to attend your baby. Your baby scans and your doctor's appointments for that sort of thing, and so she's just spiralling. And finally, after worrying about a blown light bulb might set the house on fire, she is overwhelmed by Nancy visiting and thinking that she's unclean. So somebody comes around to say, hey, are you all right? And she's really stressing because she thinks, oh, you're dirty, you're unclean, you haven't washed your hands, you haven't done this. And her obsessional thoughts lead her into peril.
And she's got a baby on the way. It's so
and she's
hard.
got a baby, I know.
Yeah, I think OCD is a really good storyline. I think so many people suffer from it,
Yes.
and it's a real thing. And like you say, just from the smallest things right through to the biggest things, it's trying to get. I don't know how easy it is to get help for things like that. I think it's one of those things that perhaps isn't easily accessible to people. So yeah, it's a good thing to bring to light, I think.
And they've done a popular character as well. So people will engage with it.
Yeah, totally. It's really engaging because, and I suspect that a lot of people will see, even if they don't. Think that they have OCD tendencies, there'll be something they'll go, oh, gosh, like you said, I do wash my hands. I mean, washing hands at the moment, frankly, is of course par for the course, but the locking of the door, for me it's the hair straighteners. I'll put them on and I think, I have to get my husband to go and look at them, so that if I ask him later in the day, I did turn them off, I checked. I need somebody else to back. It's ridiculous, really, because I've looked 2 or 3 times, but lots of people will identify with it, I think.
Yeah.
So EastEnders. Wow. Okay.
Did you see the episode, Hannah, where Gray killed Kush?
We called it, didn't we?
We did. We called it back in January.
I still didn't really want to believe it, though. I still didn't think, because I thought if he went to prison, then that would buy him enough time to go and do what he wanted to do, and he could come back again.
No. So EastEnders wanted this to come as a shock, so that when people watched it on Monday night, they would go, goodness gracious me. And so we were all pushing everyone towards the prison sentences. I was talking about Ben and Gray being part of Ben as Ben's solicitor, and all giving him the evil eye in the courtroom. So Gray hears that Whitney's leaving with Kush and little Arthur, and obviously he's not going to let Whitney go. We knew he was never going to let Whitney go, and as Kush, Whitney and Arthur go to the tube station, of course Arthur's little, and little bladders are like. Whitney has to take him to the toilet, which leaves Kush alone on the tube station platform, and suddenly he realises he's not alone.
But surely this will be the undoing of Gray, because this is so public. I mean, you can't just throw someone in front of a tube. I mean, you just can't, can you? So, someone's going to see.
Well, we'll have to wait and see, Hannah, won't we?
And I'm talking in real time, so probably not.
And now that Gray has killed 3 people, because he's killed his wife Chantal, he killed Tina, and now he's killed Kush, that makes him officially a serial killer.
Yeah, 3 or more, is it?
Yes. I looked that one up because I thought, and that's quite a lot of people, really. I'm surprised the police haven't gone, ooh, all these people.
Well, this is why I'm wondering if this will be the undoing, because all the others were sort of private and, he's got away with it. Yeah. But this, I'm not sure. Oh, poor old Whitney. She really is unlucky, isn't she?
Isn't she?
Oh, gosh. And talk me through the surrogate storyline, because we obviously spoke about Karen potentially being Rainie's surrogate last week. But this week we see her daughter Bernie not allowing her to do it.
So Bernie says, no, Mum, I will do it for you, so Bernie steps in to offer to be a surrogate for Rainie and Stuart. I think Bernie thinks it's easier. A mum's of a certain age, perhaps she thinks, Bernie's very young, perhaps she thinks she'll carry the baby easier and a lot better and won't be quite so tired. Karen has a lot going on in her life. She's also looking after little Bailey, and money's massively tight in the Taylor household. Both Mitch and Karen are out of work. So, so Bernie is thinking, we really do need this money. And so Bailey watches Karen give her last meal to Bernie and go without food. Now, there are people and families in Britain today doing that. I mean, it's a shocking thing that a mother gives the last lot of food to her daughter and goes without food herself. And here we are seeing it on a soap. We see the
I don't think people believe that's happening in our own country, and it absolutely is. And it's not just in sort of impoverished areas. It's also in affluent areas. Yeah. It's going on everywhere. It's unbelievable.
Yes, and it is shocking. It is shocking that someone's going to bed without food, whether it be a child or an adult. We live in the UK, Hannah. We should have enough food for everybody. And
we really should.
And little Bailey, who's only 11, that's why I call her little. She hears, Mitch and Karen discussing, the state of their finances, and she feels a burden on the family, and she makes a shock decision. So, Karen is such a lovely person. She took on Bailey when Bailey's mum, Dina, died. So that was one of Mitch's ex-wife after Karen, I think. So she took on Bailey, but Bailey, she thinks, oh gosh, there's just not enough money in, and if Bernie's doing that, there's not enough food for everyone, and she makes a shock decision.
And we also, it's the first time we see Sue Holderness as Estelle.
Yes.
Going on a date with Billy.
She does. She's coming in. She's got a very jaunty little cap on. She looks lovely. So just wait to see where that one goes.
Now, over to the Cobbles. This week we see Sharon, Rita's foster daughter, what she's really back for.
Yes.
Don't we?
We do. So I said last week she wasn't back for a loving family reunion, and she's not, is she? She's interested in tracking down Leanne and Simon. Why? Just what is her connection to all of this? And, this is really serious because Harvey's in prison. He's out to get Simon if he possibly can. His gang are on the lookout for Simon, and Simon, Leanne and Nick are in a safe house in hiding. So, but of course, in amongst all of that, we have his dad, Simon's dad, Peter, very unwell, and this week a liver becomes available for a transplant. So, it's all systems go on that front, and this is very serious, big serious operation. And Sam, his half brother, messages Simon, who is in hiding, and says, your dad's in hospital, there's a liver. And Simon thinks, I'm going to go and see him. And he sneaks out of the house and turns up at the hospital, putting himself in grave danger.
I guess the question is whether the transplant will actually go ahead, because Simon does turn up, doesn't he, at the hospital,
yes, he does,
putting himself in a huge amount of danger, and someone recognises him.
Yep, and takes a picture. Will he fall into the hands of the gang? So will Peter's transplant go ahead? And will Simon fall into the hands of the gang? It's all going on this week. It
really is, and it is. I don't really want to mention this, but seeing as you're going to make me, there's more pain for fears, isn't there? Because Tyrone, literally, in the words of Jennifer Aniston, is missing a sensitivity chip, isn't he? I mean, really is. Because he announced that he's taking Alina to Kevin and Abby's wedding, and it's just like, you couldn't be more tone deaf if you tried.
I know, that is just so wrong on so many levels. So Tyrone is meant to be Kevin's best man. They work together. They're in the garage together. They spend all day together mending cars, along with Abby, who's the other mechanic. And so Fizz, obviously, and Tyrone as a couple, they have been on nights out and with Kevin and Abby lots. So they're kind of like a foursome, I suppose. And now so So Fizz will want to be at the wedding, but she's going to have to see Tyrone parading, shall we say? I'm going to use that word, parading Alina around.
That's just... It's just horrible. It's so unthoughtful because whatever his feelings are, whether he's moved on or he's in love or in lust or whatever it is, she is still the mother of his children and someone he's left, and he should have some feelings for her and for his children, because if she's suffering, the children will probably be suffering in terms of upset, completely. Seeing their mum upset, you know?
Yes, they're massively upset, the kids. We know this because they keep asking, does Daddy love Alina more than us?
It's it's horrible to watch. And yeah, someone needs to have a word.
Yes.
So Emmerdale, who has got it in for Kim? Because we know a few weeks back we saw Kim collapse, didn't we? And I think everyone thought that, or she was worried that she had the same illness as her father. But actually someone's poisoning her.
Yes. Isn't this shocking? We saw her collapsed, and she was unconscious all night. And Lydia found her and helped her, and she's thinking, oh no, you know, I've got the same illness as my dad, and she's continuing to be feeling ill because somebody has poisoned her brandy. So every time she has a sip of brandy, she's taking more of this noxious substance.
Who is it?
Well, we don't know. So this week, I mean, it doesn't just affect Kim. So this week, her granddaughter Millie is also a little unwell, and Andrea asks Kim to look after her. And Kim's, says, yeah. And as she's babysitting her, she collapses. She feels really unwell, and she collapses, but she just manages to get a garbled voicemail message off to Andrea. And Andrea rushes round to find Millie in the throes of an allergic reaction as well. So we have Kim collapse, and the child she's meant to be babysitting in the middle of an allergic reaction. So yeah, this poisoning has hit two people.
So I'm wondering whether the mystery poisoner is actually within the sort of the Tate house.
So is the mystery poisoner inside or outside the Tate empire? And quite frankly, Kim has enough enemies that you could write a list that would stretch from John O'Groats to Land's End.
Yeah, that is true. She does have a few people that are after her, but this is taking things to another level, isn't it?
So is Joe Tate going to come back? Now Vanessa is due back. Charity's partner. She doesn't have a beef with Kim at all, really. But this is Emmerdale, as Victoria says about Holby. This is Emmerdale, and it would be a good way to introduce someone back in. But we'll have to wait and see where it goes.
Yeah, and it's that's not the only storyline going on, because it's a tough week for Emmerdale's best loved couple, Nicola and Jimmy. I think you describe them as the Vera and Jack of Emmerdale, don't you?
They are. So, Jimmy was behind the wheel of the truck that crashed into the barn that killed Paul. So he's obviously massively stressed and upset. And this week he's charged with death by dangerous driving. So, that's very serious. And anyway, even if killing someone must weigh on your mind if you do it accidentally in a car. He was having a panic attack, and also the sun blinded him as well. I think he came round a corner and the sun was in the wrong place. It was all very tricky, and he's stressed out. Jimmy's also dealing with little Carl's mum, Juliet. So Jimmy had little Carl. You'll love this one, Hannah, because Nicola asked him to have a vasectomy, and he said yes, but he didn't want to give up his chance of fatherhood, so he went to a sperm bank and banked some sperm, and there was a mix-up at the sperm bank, and Juliet got some of his sperm, and that's how little Carl came about. So Juliet and Jimmy are always rowing over Carl, and she's really being quite aggressive. And Nicola, his wife, is trying to hoodwink him into selling half the business over to charity, and it all gets too much for him. So he's got Juliet nagging him, he's got Nicola betraying him, he's got the police charging him with death by dangerous driving, and he makes a shock decision. What is it?
Poor guy, he's under pressure, isn't he?
He is.
Serious pressure.
He is. They are great. Nicola and Jim, I think they're a great couple. They've got a bit of comedy value. I mean, so yeah, I would like to see them resolve their differences.
Yeah. She seems to be that, like you say, like the Vera and Jack, the sort of pushy one, telling him what to do, and he sort of just goes along with it.
She's very pushy.
Very pushy.
She's
wow,
great.
what a great week in Soapland. It's you can't really leave. I know you're allowed to leave your sofa now, but you won't want to be leaving your sofa, frankly. So absolutely keep staying safe, keep watching these soaps, because you're in for a treat this week. Thanks for listening, and we will be back next week.